Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel today, The Study of Antiquity and the Middle Ages. I'm your host, as always, Nick Barksdale, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Maeir. Dr. Maeir, thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
So, Terry Young asked, for the Philistines, what do we know about their language? Do we have any texts in their language? And does it shed any light on who they were?
Okay. Great question. And that ties into what I said before, is that originally, since they were Greek, they clearly had to be speaking some sort of Greek language and writing some sort of a Aegean script. So, first of all, it's important to remember that even today, many languages are spoken or not necessarily written. And that's for sure in the past. There are thousands and thousands of languages that have been spoken throughout history that there's no writing. And thus, it's very possible that even if the Philistines, a large portion of them did come from the Aegean, from region which originally they did write using the Linear B, Cypro-Minoan writing systems, and others which are less understood or less known, when they arrived in Canaan, they were at a time when the palace structure of the Aegean had collapsed. The palace structure was the structure which had the scribes which knew how to write, and the writing was for the palace politics and taxation, etc. Once that disappeared, there was no need for writing, so they didn't write anymore. So it could very well be that even if they did come, some of them from the Mycenaean world, when they arrived in Canaan, there was no reason to write anymore. That's one thing. The other thing is, it could be that they came from different parts which they didn't bring a tradition of writing. Now, when we do have writing that's decipherable, and that's from the 10th century onwards, that's 200 years at least after they've appeared, the Philistine culture has appeared in Canaan, they started using the local Levantine alphabetic script for writing. And then in the beginning, they have the archaic alphabetic script, and then they slowly have a script that's more and more like the scripts that are written around there by the Phoenicians, by the Israelites, etc. And by the end of the Iron Age, there's not a slew, but quite a few inscriptions written in the formalized Iron Age alphabet, which we can read and interpret. And it's clear that at least for writing, they were using the local Levantine script. Now, the language that they were using in these scripts was a language very similar to Phoenician or to what we call Biblical Hebrew, slightly different. So for example, some scholars, such as Cross, is called the Neo-Philistine language, but it's mainly Semitic, but here and there, words that are not Semitic appear. So there's a very famous inscription that was found in a temple at Ekron from the 7th century, which gives a list of the kings of Ekron, most of them Semitic, but some of them not Semitic names. And then it gives the names of a goddess who's, according to most people, something like Patgaya or Potnia, something of the sort. Now, and so it's an Aegean god name or goddess name used by the Philistines. Now, in addition to that, in the biblical text, here and there, and in some of the inscriptions, you have the appearance of non-Semitic names and terms, such as Goliath and Achish, which are not a Semitic names, and the term Seren, which I mentioned before, and a couple of other terms that appear mainly in biblical sources. And these were said to be indications of the non-Semitic origins of the language or languages that were spoken by the early Philistines. Now, if we interpret the Philistines as coming from not from one place, but from various regions, it may have been a very complex language community of people speaking different languages, which at some time the local Canaanite dialects became more dominant. And also when they started writing, they incorporated the local writing system. And they didn't bring in what they had, or what some of them had as their traditions of writing and language from other places. So I think that hopefully that answers the question.